John 19, verse 28 says, "Later, knowing all that was now completed, and so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, 'I am thirsty.' A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it. They put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and they lifted it to Jesus' lips." It's a really simple statement. I'm thirsty. I wonder if you have ever really been thirsty. We live in a place where if I want a drink of water, I just walk to the drinking fountain. But as I mentioned to you a moment ago, Jesus is fully divine. We're very familiar with that. But in this moment, Jesus is fully human. If you listen to some of the other messages today, we talked about how he was beaten, scourged, mocked, spit upon. He had a crown of thorns placed into his head. He carried his own cross up the hill to Golgotha. He was then crucified, and nails in his wrists and in his feet. He must have had so much excessive blood loss. There's an actual term. It's hypovolemic thirst. His body was in agony. It wasn't that he went, I'm thirsty. His body had lost so much blood that it was crying out, tormented with thirst. And we read in Exodus chapter 17, the Hebrews were tormented with thirst, and they cried out to God, and God gave them water from a rock. But here, the Son of Man hangs on the cross after just saying, God, why have you forsaken me? And the only thing, I gotta believe, the only thing he can get out of his mouth is, I'm thirsty. His body must have been in absolute shock. At the cellular level, he was thirsty. Have you ever been thirsty? That thirsty? I don't think Jesus did that to us just to show us his physical thirst, although we have to appreciate the weight of him giving his physical body for us so we can now better understand it. But it's not just about his physical thirst. It's about his spiritual thirst. Remember, Jesus, as a young Hebrew boy, was lost from his mother. Do you remember this story? And he's in the temple. He loved the scriptures. And when you look back, especially in the Old Testament, you see this idea of a spiritual thirst. A thirst that only God can satisfy. Jesus was no doubt familiar with Psalm 42. As a deer pants for the water, so my soul pants for you. My soul thirsts for God. Psalm 42 continues, and it continues to describe the thirst in this way, like deep calling out to deep. Psalm 42, the writer says, "Why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you at turmoil within me?" Deep is calling out to deep, and my soul is downcast, and it's in turmoil, and that all can be summarized in one word, a thirst. Jesus has this thirst for God. Psalm 63, he must have been thinking Psalm 63, "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you as in a dry and weary land where there's no water." I gotta think that the Son of Man, who was the inspiration for all those Psalms as he's hanging there and says, I'm thirsty, is thinking these things. I'm spiritually thirsty. Psalm 69 is a psalm of David. It's a prophecy for what is happening right now. Psalm 69 says, I'm weary with my crying out. I'm weary. My throat is parched. My eyes grow dim waiting for my God. Is that not a picture of Jesus hanging on the cross? I'm weary. My throat is parched. My eyes grow dim waiting for my God. Psalm 69 verse 9 says, Zeal for your house has consumed me. We just saw that in the chapter before when he's turning over tables in the temple. They say, so the prophecy was fulfilled that zeal for his Father's house would consume him. And the reproaches of those who reproach you have fallen on me. Psalm 69 verse 21 says, they gave me poison for food, and for my thirst they gave me sour wine to drink. So Jesus is physically thirsty. He's spiritually thirsty for something only God can give him. He's fulfilling prophecy. But do you remember this moment where he says, God, if it's possible, take this cup from me. So when Jesus says, I'm thirsty, he's thinking back to the night before in the garden, and he's saying, I'm ready. Ready. You can't take this cup from me. It's the only way. I'm spiritually thirsty, God. I want to do what you've asked me to do. I want to drink the cup of suffering that you've put in front of me. Andrew Murray, in his book on humility, says humility is this: a place of entire dependence on God. Entire dependence on God. Humility is rooted in the word humiliation. We see a lot of pictures of this that are very pretty, aren't they? It wasn't pretty. The creator of the world in human form, long expected Jesus we sing at Christmas time, is utterly and totally humiliated to the point of where his total dependence is on God. Philippians chapter 2. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. And when he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. Total dependence on God. He thirsted for his Father. And I can't help but think that as he hung there, a good little Hebrew boy getting lost in the temple, when he was later tempted by the devil, if you remember this story, every time Satan would say, if you do this, Jesus would respond with Scripture. He loved Scripture. And so in one of his final statements, when he says on the cross, I'm thirsty, I have to think in his mind he was taken back. And he was singing to himself Psalm 42. As a deer pants for flowing streams, so my soul, it pants for you. My soul thirsts for you, Father. He remembers the songs his parents taught him. Nothing he says is by accident. He's teaching us something. And my question for you on this Good Friday is this: do you thirst? Do you thirst for the Lord? I mean, like deep calling out to deep, total and utter dependence on God, thirst for the Lord. It's something we can pray about. I think Jesus was showing his complete and total physical and spiritual dependence on the Father. And we are given the same invitation. God is saying, will you completely and totally, utterly depend on me? Will you thirst for me like a deer thirsts for water?